so it saves there. Okay, so let me just quickly recap all that stuff that I said. You go to Wolfram, you're gonna work on notebooks. Each notebook is like a Google Doc. Each assignment will have its own notebook. Now, someone asked about this Plan Ohlone College. There's an authorization form you need to fill out. I gave it to everyone on the first day of class, but let me find that again. Ohlone Mathematica. This one. Wait, no, this one. So after you make your account, you have to go there and type in your email address, and it will activate it so that it will say Plan Ohlone College and not Plan Basic. The school pays so that it gives like you more memory and stuff. You know how how like there's like freemium games where you go and you sign up for the game, and then like in game you can make purchases to like make it run faster. It's basically like that. So when it says Plan Ohlone College, you know that there's like more that you can do. Okay. Yeah, so I put the link in the chat right now. You go there, click. Actually, why doesn't everyone just do that right now? Please click on that link, fill out the form. This size. There we go. So I'm just going to wait a moment while people do that. After you're done, can you put like the reaction, the yes reaction, so I can just keep track of how many people have done it? The yes reaction. So go to like reactions and do a little check mark. Thank you. Yeah, you want me to resend the link? Sure. There you go. Remember, yes reaction, the check mark. Because it counts them for me. I can like see how many people have clicked it. Okay, so I'm going to go forward now. So I'm going to make a new notebook. So when you're doing this, you'll make a notebook. And right here, do you see how it says unnamed? You should name all your notebooks so that later you know what you were dealing with. So I'm going to call this Spring 2021, and we're going to call it Introduction. And then you just press the little check mark. You can also save it in different directories. So I'm going to like make a directory. I'm going to call this Spring 2021 159. Oh crap, where'd it go? There it is. Okay, cool. Choose. Oh, great. It didn't save the name. Spring 2021 Introduction. Okay, and I think it's not putting it in the right one. Okay, I want to go in there. There we go. Now it's saved it. Okay. So does everyone see how there's the name on the top left corner? Okay, so you just start typing, and that will put in commands. So if you just start typing, Wolfram is going to assume you're telling it something to do. That's called command mode. So you probably want to take notes on this because like there's a lot going on. Now, the way Wolfram commands work is that they all start with an uppercase. And actually, let me make the font a little bigger. Let me zoom in. There we go. So as you start typing, it will try to guess what command you're trying to use. So do you see how I typed in LO and then it says log, locator, locator pane, local time, logical expand. So you don't have to memorize all of the commands. It will, as you type, it will try to guess. Like, it will give you options like, oh, is this the command you're looking for? Is this the command you're looking for? It's pretty useful. And all commands start with an uppercase letter. So do you see how I have uppercase L? So if I type uppercase P, L, it starts saying like, well, commands that start with P and L are plot, plot 3D, plot plus, play, and a bunch of stuff like that, okay? So you don't have to worry about like memorizing a bunch of stuff. Like as long as you generally remember what it is, you can start typing and it will tell you about the commands. So we need to load data. So there's a load command. Okay, and the way you do a command, you type in the name of the command, so here's load, and then you put these, they're called straight brackets in front of it. That's where you tell the command what it's going to do. So the load command loads data. Does that make sense for the most part? If you want to load in information, you have to tell the computer to load, and then in the brackets, you have to tell it what to load. So I'm putting the brackets into the chat. Notice that they are not parentheses. They are also not the curly brackets. These are all different. So there's like brackets, there's curly brackets, and there's parentheses. Okay. Other than typing commands, you can also, there's something called text mode. So if I put my cursor right here, okay, do you see that little plus right there? If you click the plus, it gives you different options. So it defaults to Wolfram language input. Those are the commands. If you want to type something that's not a command, you have to choose plain text. So if I start typing here, Wolfram knows that these are not commands. These are words. Wolfram needs to be told whether you are writing commands or words, okay? And the whole idea for this is that you're gonna have the computer calculate things for you, and then you're also gonna explain what those calculations mean. So does it make sense that you need to go into the text mode to write down your explanations? If you want Wolfram to calculate something, you need to put it into command mode. Okay, which one does it default to? Yeah, sure. Yes. Yeah, so you always have the straight brackets. And I put the other ones as examples. So let's just type this. After commands, put the straight brackets, i.e. load like this. Not parentheses or curly braces. 1 second, I have to quickly take something off of my stove. Okay, I'm back. Okay. All right, cool. So it's important to know the names here, just because we're going to talk about them. These are called square brackets. You've got parentheses, and then you've got the curly brackets. They get used for different things. Okay, so after commands, you write straight square brackets. Inside of there, you're going to tell the computer what to load or what to do. Okay. Cool so far? Feel free to ask questions at any time, because I know this is a lot. Okay, so if you're ever like wondering about something, just ask. It will make life a lot easier. Does that make sense? I'm like really saying like, feel free to ask at any moment. Like, wait, what's going on? Okay, because I don't want you to be confused, and we're going to be doing this a lot, and I set aside like several lectures to do this, so it's not like we're going to be pressed for time. Oh, look, yeah, I haven't showed you how to do any commands. I was just telling you about the fact that you can enter commands and the fact that you can enter text. If you understand the difference between that, you're good so far. Notice when you're entering commands, what color are the commands? Yeah, right. So you know that you're in command mode if what you're typing shows up in blue. If you're not in command mode, it will not. Okay? Bueno so far? Okay, oops. There's something I'm looking for. Where did it go? Oh, here it is. Okay, so we're going to be using information from the book that we're using, the Open Intro book. So I'm putting the link in the chat. That's where you're always going to find the data. They're called the data sets. So this book includes a lot of different things of information. So I clicked on that link and this came up, and there's a lot of different things. So each of these links is a data set. So for a particular assignment, I'll ask you to please load that data set. You will always go to this site to find the one that you're looking for. So we're going to use this one that's called ACS 12. So you see how it says absenteeism and then ACS 12? So I'm going to click on ACS 12. And it gives you a description of the data, and it will give you a link to load into Wolfram. So each of these data sets, remember how we talked about there's the data frames? The data frame is all the different variables. So these are the different variables that are included. So there's a variable about how much money people make. There's a variable about their employment status. There's a variable about how many hours they work each week, what their race is, how old they are, what their gender is, and so on. So there's a lot of different variables. And it tells you where the information comes from. ACS stands for the American Community Survey. It's something that the census does. So it's like a mini census that the Census Bureau does every year. This information is from 2012. Okay, and then what you want to do is, you see where it says downloads right here? You always want to get the CSV file. Don't download it. What you're going to do is right click on it and say copy link. So I'm going to give you a moment to write that down. Oh my god, I think you hear my daughter like screaming in the background. Can people hear that? Are people able to hear her like crazily screaming in the background? Or is it just, okay, I apologize. So you don't want to click on it, you want to right click on it and say copy link. You're always going to do this for the CSV file. So I'm going to do that. Copy link. Okay, and then we're going to go back over here. So let's type in load, brackets, and I'm going to paste that in there. Okay. And there's a lot more that you're going to have to put, but luckily Wolfram helps you with this. Okay, so if you hover over load, do you see how there's these two little arrows and this eye right here? Does that like show up for you? Can we see this little eye? Okay, the I stands for information. So if you click on the I on the left, it tells you about how that command works. Oh, and I seem to have not typed in the right command because that's not the right thing. Okay, 1 second. I thought it was the load command was what I wanted. 1 second. Oh, my bad. We want the import command. Sorry. It's not the load command. We want import. The import command is what you use to get the data. I apologize. It's another one that uses the load command. Okay, so if you hover over import, you can click on I, and it gives you information about how that works. So it says, oh, this is the import command. And then it tells you how it works. So it says, well, what does import do? Well, the import command imports data from the source. So does it make sense this link that we gave is the source from where we're getting the data? So Wolfram explains and helps you figure out what you're doing. Okay? And I think you don't have to put the what's it called around it? Let me check. I have it on this one over here. Oh, so after you type in the link, you should usually put quotes around it. Okay, so it requires, you need to put the quotes around it. So you see how I pasted in the link and then I put quotes around it. Okay. Now, there are different things that you need to tell Wolfram to do. So if you look on this second line right here, do you see how it says import and then there's source, comma, format? You have to tell Wolfram what it is that you're importing. You told it, hey, go get this stuff from me at this website. Now you have to put a comma and you have to tell it what you're getting. What you are getting is a data set. So you tell Wolfram, hey, there's this information at this website. You can have it download different things. Like you can have it download an image. You can have it download text. We're having it download a data set, so you have to tell it that you're downloading a data set. Okay, make sure that I'm doing that right. Yep. And also the D in data set has to be uppercase. Let's close that. Okay, so does everyone see that first command there? You have to give it the link. Let's actually type this down. So the way this is going to work is that you're going to do import, and then you're going to put a link in quotes, comma, data set, because you're telling it that you're downloading a data set. And then it's really anal about this. Data set has to have an uppercase D. Otherwise, it doesn't work. Which is a little annoying, but you'll get used to it. Okay. I'm going to pause for a moment and see if there are questions, because I know this is a lot. I'm going to be honest with you. This has a sort of steep learning curve. And I know that you might feel intimidated right now, but I'll tell you I've been teaching this for several years, and people always tell me afterwards, oh my God, at the beginning of the semester, I was super intimidated by this, or I thought I couldn't do it, or I was really worried that this was programming. And then what everyone tells me is, it took a week, it took 2 weeks, it took 3 weeks, but then I finally got it. One day it clicked. You just have to not be afraid of doing it. Does that sort of make sense? And don't worry, it's going to be several weeks until I need you to actually do this, to do statistics. So we're just going to mess around with it for a while. And I'll have you do super simple stuff. So we're gonna build you up. Does that make sense? It's not all of a sudden one day I'm gonna be oh, go calculate all this crap and do everything. We're gonna slowly build up to it. So just know that it's not that bad. It's what always happens every time. Is there a link on Wolfram to open intro? No, which is why I posted that link right there with the data in the chat. Okay. So once you have the command, the way that you run the command is you click on where the command that you typed in and you press Shift and Enter at the same time. Shift and Enter at the same time. So here I've selected my command and I'm going to press Shift and Enter. And then it starts thinking. Do you see the little twirly thing right there? It's thinking. So it's downloading the information right now, and then boom, do you recognize the data frame right below with all those variables that we talked about? Do you see how it says income, employment, hours worked, and race? Those are all remember last class we talked about how in the data matrix or the data frame, each of the columns is a variable, right? So now you can see your variables. What are the rows? What do the rows stand for? Do we remember what the rows are? If you look right here, this is race. There's a bunch of white people apparently. White. What is one of the rows? Those are the values, but each row is a subject and it shows you all the values for that one subject. So if you look at this first row, this is someone who makes $60,000, but apparently they're not in the labor force. They work 40 hours a week. They are white. They They are 68. They are a female. They are a citizen. How long does it take them to get to work? I don't know. What language do they speak? English. Are they married? No. And so on. Right? So that one row tells you about a specific person. Bueno so far? Cool. So you have this data. Now, you have to tell Wolfram to save this data as something. When you just type import, it just downloads it and prints it out for you. So because we're going to want to use this data to do things, we need to have it save the data. Importing it just goes and gets it and prints it. Okay, so the way you save the data is you decide what you want to call it. So because this is data, let's just call it data. So you write data equals import. What that's going to do is it's going to save all of this. It's going to import it. Oh my god, I'm just going to tell my daughter to stop screaming because it's making it hard for me to think. Oh, and rice is ready. Okay, I'm back. Okay. You're probably even able to hear me ask them, what is going on? You don't have, you put a space. Data space equals space import. Okay, now do you see how it sort of grayed everything out? Okay, because it grayed everything out, that's telling you, hey, you changed the command, you need to rerun it. So I'm going to click on it, I'm going to press Shift and Enter again. And then now it imports the data and it's going to save it as data. So if I need to use this data in the future, it's literally called data. Okay? So several parts to this. Let's track that down. So this is done in two parts. The import command literally gets the data. You have to save the data by writing name equals import. There we go. Okay, weird. Apparently I don't know how to spell literally. Oh, there we go, literally. Cool. Okay, you can call it whatever you want. Okay, it doesn't have to be called data. If you wanted to, you can call this ACS12. Okay, so whatever name you choose, that's why you see how it says name equals import. It's a name that you choose. You need to remember what the name is. Mucho bueno so far? Okay. There's one more option you need to put. Okay, so we talked about this last class. This first line where it says income, employment, hours worked, and race, that's different than all the stuff that's below. How is the first line different from every line beneath it? So, okay, very, very close. How is income different from 60,000, 0, NA, 0, 0, and 1700? What are 60,000, 0, 0, and 1700? What do we call those things? They're values, but what is income itself? Yeah, it's the name of the variable. So that first line is the name of the variable. Everything beneath it is the different values for that variable. So you have to tell Wolfram this. And I know it seems a little annoying. So you have to put comma, and you have to tell it header lines dash arrow 1. Oh, actually, I'm sorry. Header lines end quote, dash arrow 1. What you're telling the computer is, hey, that first line, that's the names of the variables. Everything afterwards is the values. So let's put that. Header lines dash arrow 1 tells Wolfram that the first line is the names and everything afterward. Okay, why does it keep on switching like that? Everything. Okay. Okay, I start typing and it starts moving. Everything afterwards is values. Okay. Wow, this is like super annoying, but there we go. Dash the greater than symbol, which is by the comma. Or sorry, by the dot. It's the shift dot. That's how you make this one. Yeah, as you type, it will just make it for you. Yeah, I'll give you a minute to copy it. Yeah, so what you do is you type a dash, you type a greater than, and then it turns it into an arrow right away. No problem. Yeah, exactly. Gavin put it into the chat. You put dash the little greater than. Thank you. We talked about that earlier. If it's blue, what mode are you in? Sorry, my dogs. You're in the command mode. If it's not blue, you're in text mode. It defaults to command mode, exactly, like what Amy and Valeria are saying. Okay, if you want to type in text, you hover your mouse, you press, and then the little plus will show up, and then you type plain text. As opposed to, if you just start typing, it assumes that you're typing a command. This is actually really cool stuff. Has anyone ever heard of like data science or machine learning or like Facebook analytics, that sort of stuff? You know how they talk about like the algorithms on Facebook? This is actually one of the platforms that those companies use to figure all that out. So like this is like a hot and in-demand skill. Like there's people who make like hundreds of thousands of dollars doing this sort of stuff. So like if you needed some motivation, there it is. Like obviously you're just learning the basics, but does it make sense? Like the basics is the hard stuff. Like learning how to do this because you need the computer skills. Mm-hmm. 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 It's very similar to it, but StatCrunch is there. You don't type in commands. They only have like little options for you to choose. So like you can do a lot more with this. You'll see. But everything that StatCrunch does, Wolfram does, and Wolfram does way more. Mm-hmm. So in a little bit, you'll sort of see like eventually that like that you might recognize stuff that you did that we can do on Wolfram. Yeah, it's not that good. It's very hampered as a tool. Okay. So there's like a lot going on here. You have to keep in your mind like, oh, am I in command mode? Am I in text mode? And then like when you have to learn how all the commands work. Luckily it has that built-in documentation. If you ever are confused about a command, just put your mouse over the command. That little I will show up. You click on the I, and then it will sort of tell you like, oh, like, well, if you are using the import command, you need to give me a source, comma, and then a format, right? So it sort of like helps you out a little. If you scroll down a little more, they even have like basic examples. Like they're showing you how would you import like a picture. How would you import? And then they have like a bunch of them. So it's like really helpful. This is like, I like Wolfram because like if you get lost, you can click on the eye and you sort of scroll through and they have examples there for you basically. Okay, so we're gonna move down a little now, okay? Cool. So usually you have all this data and we want to know about how much data we have. There's a command called dimensions. So do you see how I started typing in DIM? And what's the first one that comes up? Dimensions. So if you click on that, it will just finish the command for you. So let me do that again. I just started typing. Remember, all commands start with an uppercase letter. So I started with uppercase D. I started typing IM. Dimensions come up. I click on that. It auto completes for me. What am I going to have to type after I type dimensions? What do you always put after a command? Yeah. So you put the brackets. So do you see how it puts this little red little thing right there? That's telling you, hey, you aren't writing anything in the command. There should be shit here. And if you hover over it, it even says too few arguments given. In other words, it shows you, hey, you're supposed to put something in there. So like Wolfram, if you make a mistake in how you type it, you'll see red. Right? So it's actually, it helps you. Does that sort of make sense what I'm trying to show you here? Like if it's expecting you to write more, it puts that little red arrow there. So you have to tell it what you want to take the dimensions of. What was the name of my data? What did I call it? So if I scroll up, what did I name my data? Exactly. So I want to know what the dimensions of ACS12 are. And I'm going to write above this, press plus plain text. And I'm going to write, this tells me about the dimensions of my data set ACS12. Okay, and I'm going to, how do I run the command? Well, you always start with a capital, but how do you run the command? Shift and enter. So I click on it, I press shift, I press enter, and then boom, it spits out these two numbers, 2001 and 13. What that means is in my data, there are 2001 rows. In each row is a subject, and 13 columns. A column is a variable. So in other words, this information I have here is about 2001 different people, and we have 13 variables about each of those people. It always goes rows and then columns. So this is useful. I would say, my data is about 2001 subjects, and I have 13 variables about each of the subjects. Do you see how like I always write an explanation above the command? When you do your work, you need to do that. You don't just write commands. You also give a little blurb about like what you're doing. Right? That's what the purpose of the text entry is for. Shh. He's sitting on my lap. Does everyone see him? He's like,
Hey, Dad.
What? I'm teaching.
I'm gonna go to errands.
Okay, fine. Okay. So, boom, this command. So far you know two commands. You know how to import data, you know how to figure out what's in that data in terms of the number of rows and the number of columns. It's really important you remember the name of your data, because you see how like in dimensions I had to put the name of the data that I chose. So you have to choose a name that's you'll remember. Does that sort of make sense? Like, call it whatever you want, just you need to remember because you're gonna have to reference it later. Yeah. Because this data is about something, and it's data about that many people. Like that, if you... Oh no, that's literally what these numbers are. Like, here, I'm going to scroll up. Do you see how you can see the data here with the different variables? Like, it doesn't show you all of them. It cuts it off because it doesn't want to... It's not going to print out like 2,000 lines for all those different people. It gives you a preview. So to figure out how much there's about, you use the dimensions command. Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay, now I'm going to start showing you some other cool stuff that we can do. Okay, there are 13 different variables, right? Sometimes you don't want to look at all of the variables. Maybe you only want to, let's just choose one here. So which variable do we want to look at? Choose one variable. Like, I don't want to see all 13 of them. Let's choose one. Someone throw one out there. Cool, gender. Okay, so if you want to see only some of it, you type in the name of the data. And do you see how, like, as I was typing, it's showing me, hey, maybe you want to talk about ACS 12, right? So if you forget it, you can just click on it. So then you put a bracket, and then what you're going to do is you're going to tell it which rows you want to see and which columns you want to see. So rows are the subject, so I want to see all of them. Give me all of the rows, but I only want one column. And that column that I want is the gender column. Notice that the gender variable is in quotes. Okay, I'm going to run that. Okay, something fucked up here. Oh, because I never reran this command. 1 second. Okay, let me do it again. It's thinking. Boom. Notice what's the only information that it's giving you. Right, exactly. So it's only giving you the information. So you can see that there's female, male, female, male, female, female, male, male, and so on, right? It's only the gender information. You can ask for multiple columns. So what else would we like other than their gender? Throw out one more variable. Cool. So if you want multiple variables, you have to put them in curly brackets. So do you see how the gender is inside of the curly brackets now? And then you put a comma, and then you put the other variable, hours underscore work. And then now you can see that it gives you just those two variables. There's a female who worked 40 hours. Right? You see on that first line? That's one person. That's a woman or a female who worked 40 hours. Right? So do you see how it's only showing those two variables, not all 13 of them? Because you don't always want to see all of the variables. So I'm going to type this in plain text. You can choose to see only certain variables. How are you going to do this? You're going to put the name of your data, bracket, put all for all the rows, and then in curly braces put a name, comma, another name. You could put as many as you want. Like you can choose to see 1, you can choose to see 2, you can choose to see 3. So I'll put like name 1, name 1, name 2, so on, ... Person who direct messaged me, you're going to use this coding to work with the data to answer questions. but we're not going to be using it in force for a while, so we're just introducing it today. Okay. Making sense so far? Any questions we want to ask? Yeah, I'll be posting the recording. I'm recording it right now. We're saving it on Zoom. You'll be able to rewatch it. Okay. So you can choose different. If you can choose different columns, what else can you probably also choose? See how I'm looking at only certain columns? What other sort of choices might you want to make? Right, to see only certain rows or certain subjects. So I'm going to show you how to do that now. So we're going to press plus, plain text. So how do we only see certain subjects? This is called filtering. Or selecting. So what you're going to do is you're going to say something like, I only want to see the subjects who are female, for instance, or that their gender equals female. Does that make sense? Like we can choose hey, I only want to see people who are a certain age, or I only want to see people who are a certain gender. Like for whatever reason, you want to look at their information. It will be necessary for some of the homework, most of the homework, I'd say. It's usually not that hard. Like some of it will be really easy to do. Some of it will be slightly more complex. But yeah, you're gonna need to do some commands to do the homework generally. I wouldn't worry too much about it. I know it looks intimidating, but it ends up being pretty easy once you just spend a little time doing it. So I don't want you to drop or give up because you think you're not going to be able to do it. Everyone learns how eventually. It's not that bad. I mean, I think even people talk about it on Rate My Professor in the reviews. They straight up say oh, it was hard. I thought it was hard, but it wasn't that bad. Yeah. Yeah. Yes. So you can't put gender with an uppercase G if the variable name has a lowercase g. Yes. Same with female. Yeah, I post the links on Discord and on Canvas. You can find them on Zoom. Okay. So let me show you now how to get certain people. So you type your data, ACS12. So remember how I said you're going to ask for certain rows and you're going to ask for certain columns? Okay, so we're going to put in here where it says rows what people we want. Okay, and the command you're going to use to select certain people is, surprise, surprise, select. So this is telling Wolfram, hey, I want to select certain rows. The name sort of makes sense, right? Imports data. Select certain things. Okay, now this will be a little weird, but bear with me. You have to put hashtag X. That refers to, actually, wait. Let's see if this works. Sorry. We wanted to select people by gender, so you put hashtag gender. Does it make sense? You're telling Wolfram, hey, I want to select people of certain genders. The hashtag tells Wolfram that that's a variable. Oh, you're choosing people of certain genders. Okay, now which genders do I want? Oh yeah, pound or hashtag. pound symbol, the hashtag. It's also called the octothorpe. It's another name for it, because there's 8 little things. Okay, so you put the octothorpe, the pound, the hashtag, the name of the variable, and then which genders did I say that I wanted?
Don't talk to other strangers.
Which genders do I want? Like from what I said above, the female, right? So I'll put equals equals female. Notice the female's in quotes. You have to put equals equals, not equals. It's a little weird. And then you have to end it with an at. Okay, and then which columns do I want? Let's just use the ones I had earlier. Let's look at gender and hours worked. Okay, so I'm doing several things here. I'm telling the computer, hey, show me the variables gender and hours worked, but I only want to see women. Boom. And if you look, what are the only things that show up over here now? You see how there's only female in the gender? It's because it selected only the females. What would I change if I wanted only the males? You would just go where it says female and you would type in male, you rerun the command, you let it think, and then, oh my god, what does it only show now? Males. Yeah. I know it's sort of, I know there's sort of a lot there, but like you have to learn to break it down and it takes a little while. We're talking about our data, we're selecting only the people with gender, that's male, and then I only want to see the variables gender and hours worked. Yeah, sure. No problem. It's okay. Okay, let's add in another variable. You can hear voice 2 or just the video. You go and watch it on the files. Oh, you should hear my voice and see the video when you go and watch it. Wait, why? The things that I've been posting, can you not hear me talking? Like, I'm worried now. I'll look into that later. Okay. I'm going to add another variable. So what variable am I adding in? Yeah, cool. So I'm going to rerun it. Boom. You can see that we only have males because I selected gender equals equals male. There's the hours worked, and then there are their ages. Boom. Okay, so right, you can like look at a bunch of different variables. Okay, you can select all sorts of different people. I've selected people by their gender. How about I select people by their age? Okay, what age would you like to select people by? Like people who are older than younger, or younger than what? Like give me something. How should we choose people by? Cool. So instead of select hashtag gender, if I want to select people by age, what do I need to put there? Hashtag age. And you don't put equals equals anymore. I'll put greater than. I want the age to be greater than, let's put 21. You rerun it, and notice, do you see how because I'm not selecting by gender anymore, do you see how there's females and males? right? Because I'm not choosing only males or females. But if you look at all their ages, all of those ages are over 21. Or let's get really crazy here. Let's only look at people over the age of 70. So do you see how like 88, 77, 83, 75, all those people are over the age of 70, right? And there's a mixture of males and females. Okay, you need to be able to do this because like when we're looking at data, maybe you only want to, remember how we talked about like looking at like treatment groups and control groups? If you only want to look at the treatment group, you're going to have a treatment variable and you're going to have to say, hey, only select the people who got the treatment or only select the people who got the control, right? So if you want to look at the two different groups, you need to be able to do this. Is that making sense? Like why you need to be able to do this? Because we're going to look and compare different groups of people. Like usually it's a treatment versus a control group. Or maybe we want to look at different races. I think we have a race variable. Let's just add that in there. Okay, let's see what we got. Let's see. Ah, there, look. All of the old people, except for one, what are they? All of these people over the age of 70 happen to be what? They happen to be white. So these are the old white people we're looking at. So like you can go in there and maybe there are other races. Let's see. You could put race equals. Let's see if we have Asian. Let's let it think. And then, oh shit, now we only look at the Asian people. And you can go and look to see like, you know, how old are they or like how much do they work or all sorts of stuff about them, right? So does it make sense? If you want to analyze different groups, you have to put that select statement in there. Like I only want to see the Asian people. I only want to see the white people. I only want to see the people who are over the age of 70. Whatever it is you're looking at. Okay, that's what this is useful for. Okay. Bueno so far? Okay. I'm going to show you another command. So sometimes you want to know how many people there are in a category. So let me type in plain text. Often you want to count how many people meet some criteria, i.e., how many people are over 21, or how many people are Asian and employed, or whatever. Does that make sense? Like you have something and you're wondering, like, well, how many people are there who fit in that category? There's a command to do this for you. And guess what it's called? So what are we trying to do? We're counting them. Yeah, so and it's counts actually. But there's a counts command. And you can see there's actually a bunch of different things. There's count, counts, counts by, count roots, counter assignments, but we'll use counts. Actually, let me see if count is the one we want. I don't remember if it's count or counts. I think it's counts that I want. Yeah. Okay. So we're going to do counts. Now you have to tell it what you're counting. So you put in, well, I'm going to be counting from ACS 12. Okay. Let's see if I have this example. Okay, cool. Yay. So then you have to tell it, I want all the rows, and then you give it a variable, like let's do race. So if you look at this, it counted how many people are in the different races. So do you see how I gave it the race variable? So apparently, if you look at the data, how many people were white? 1,555. In your data set, how many people were Asian? 87. So it gives you a breakdown for that variable that you're looking at. So you tell it, hey, I want you to count from the ACS 12 data. I want you to count how many people are in each of the races. So you give it a variable, and it will count for you how many people are in each category of that variable. So counts will count for you how many people are in each category of a categorical variable. Does everyone agree that race is a categorical variable? It's not a numerical variable. Counts really only works with a categorical variable. So you have to tell it which variable you're counting. Okay, what time do we go until? I feel like we might actually be done. Okay. I think this is probably a lot. I think we're going to end here today. Does that sound good? Because I'm thinking like everyone's brain is probably filled past to the brim now. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to save this file, and eventually I'm just going to share it with you as well. I'll post it on Canvas so you can like look at it yourself. Cool, cool, cool. Okay, before you go, please type in "I was here" into the chat. Okay, I'm going to end the recording. Cool. Message me as you move between the places.
Okay.